This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Oliver.
Morning, Bonnie.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
It's April.
It's April. It's cold here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how cold?
Like 4 degrees.
Oh, boo. It's
Yeah.
April.
Cold.
It's almost May.
I know. It'll warm up though.
I wonder if the province is doing this on purpose so people don't go outside and congregate.
Well, we'll see if that works.
Yeah. Is the provincial stay-at-home order staying in till what, May 20th?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to extend it because of May 2-4 weekend.
Well, I was kind of surprised when they first said it, actually, that, yeah, he didn't take it past that date.
Because he probably wants to go to his cottage. Hey, Fran.
Morning, Fran.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we shall see.
Oh, I'm just getting my coffee.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to give Fran presenter status, Oliver, for her presentation.
Sure, and then flip it to me.
Can switch to you. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
My fuel, Monday morning fuel.
We'll just wait another minute or a minute anyways and just see.
Bonnie, this is for DMOs and operators, or mostly just operators or DMOs?
Anyone.
Or anyone. Okay.
Anyone.
I'm attending from Chatham, Kent.
Oh, welcome.
Just while we're waiting, in case you're wondering, the reason that I'm joining from Chatham, Kent is I'm on the board of the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, and we're continuing to look at ways to link heritage with tourism and emphasizing heritage tourism with MPP days and all sorts of other things. So it's going to be very interesting for me to share with the ACO.
Great.
Okay, I think we'll get started because we only have an hour and I don't want to go over that because I know everyone's busy. So we've got Oliver Martin from 2031 and Fran from CBRE. So Oliver, do you want to start us off? And I'll just ask that everyone else can mute their microphones, please. And Oliver, you can decide if you want to take some questions throughout, or we have allotted about 15 minutes at the end for questions as well. So.
Yeah, sounds good, Bonnie. Do you mind if you give me access to share some slides? Bonnie, if you can figure out how to do it, that'd be awesome. you know what? It's magical when technology works. Sorry, I just realized my slides are out of order here. Okay, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining. My name is Oliver Martin. I'm a partner with a firm called 2031. We do quite a bit of research for RTO 9. We are Vancouver headquartered, and we specialize in tourism strategy and mostly applied research. So Bonnie called us, Fran and myself, a couple of weeks ago and said, do you mind doing a presentation on the business case for research in travel and tourism? So that's what I'm going to talk about. If you have any questions, just turn on your camera, wave, and I'll be happy to entertain them, or use the chat, or just, as Bonnie said, save them for the end. Okay, so we're going to talk about why we need to do good research. Used properly, sound market research data and metrics really help us make informed decisions. You know, important decisions around investment choices, the types of markets we want to get into, price point for products, if we want to get into packaging. It allows us to develop our business a little bit more sustainably and, you know, hopefully, you know, weather economic issues, or in this case, you know, COVID challenges. And it also allows us to kind of measure impact and, you know, not just from a revenue perspective, but, you know, are we getting, you know, the most amount of revenue per visitor? Are we getting better yield? Are we managing to spread out the amount of visitors that are coming to our destination or to our product or service throughout the year, so we can, you know, smooth out our revenue stream? All these kind of questions. And travel and tourism is really no exception to the rule. You know, these types of questions are important for us, you know, regardless of what industry we're in. On the positive side, travel and tourism is literally one of the most heavily researched economic sectors that are out there. You know, if you compare travel and tourism to the food and beverage sector, or the transportation sector, or forestry sector, or pharmaceutical sector, we're one of the industries that has so much of data. However, our industry tends to operate very mutually exclusively across silos. Airlines think airlines, hotel and accommodation thinks hotel and accommodation, attractions think attractions, tour operators think tour operators. There's exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, because of those silos, because of traditional ways of doing business, our research tends to be highly focused on those specific areas, and it tends to be very data heavy. We're very good about collecting data, the number of people that are coming into our museum, the number of people that are staying in our hotel, the number of people that are coming to our boat line. But we're not necessarily mining that data in order to kind of come up with the nuance that really helps us develop proper strategy, or, you know, develop better products and services. Now, let's translate that to the environment that we're in. So I will crouch it by saying all the forecasts that we had in 2019, nowhere in there did they predict what would happen in 2020. I mean, this is very much unprecedented territory that we're in. However, it's becoming very, very obvious that because there is so much of this uncertainty in the market, we need better data and access to data and access to good research and insights so that we can kind of get through this, so that we can figure out what sort of strategies we should be enacting maybe this summer or this fall, how we can kind of monitor our ongoing progress. Are we able to like cut through the clutter and, you know, actually connect with some of those types of consumers that might be traveling when the conditions allow us to do so? And then ultimately build back better resiliency for our businesses and for our destinations. I'm not going to say if we had resiliency in place and strategies in place, our businesses and tourism destinations would have been able to, you know, better address COVID. However, some of the destinations and businesses that predicted that they were, you know, that they were able, you know, that they were potentially going to go through some challenges because of climate change issues or economic decline or safety and security issues. They maybe, you know, didn't invest in as much as they could. They kept cash reserves. All these kind of things help build back resiliency. And we can only ever get there if we have access to better data. And ultimately, it's really about making more responsive and robust evidence-based decisions. Should I invest in a new hotel product? Should I invest in hiring more staff? Should I invest in putting money in Facebook ads? Should I invest in opening up my product or service for the fall? And so I think if you have access to these kind of market insights, we're able to kind of answer those questions. And just in terms of our business, and so we predominantly only work with destinations in Canada and overseas. Our clients are continually asking us when tourism is going to return, what tourism is going to look like, and how it's going to evolve over the next couple of years. And these are really, really important questions. And I can tell you this, as a tourism consultant in the business for 20 years, I have no answers to any of those questions. Although I can tell you that research kind of gives us some level of clarity in terms of being able to effectively answer some of those questions, either through strategies or tactics, or evaluate them through scenarios. So in terms of research and what it's good in terms of helping us drive better recovery, and this reads from the top to the bottom. So at the top are kind of these inputs: accurate visitor numbers, or accurate numbers in our hotels, accurate numbers in our attractions. They help us do better economic impact modeling. They help us do better forecasting, and they really allow us to either make better decisions around investment choices, or to go to organizations like Ontario, Destination Ontario, or Destination Canada, or the federal government, and ask maybe for soft lobbying, or ask for more resources or different types of resources in order to get the supports we need. And the only way we can do that is by making the proper business case through the use of data. In the middle here, if we have data on industry trends and peer activity, so what are other destinations doing? How are other businesses operating? What kind of attractions are they building? What kind of visitors are they going after? This allows us to make planning decisions, either at the operator level or the destination level. And in terms of our business, this really means the types of products and services we want to develop or round out or invest in to try and capture back that visitor that's going to travel in the province and in Canada once we have those conditions that will allow us to do it. One of the things that we do lack in this industry is the ability to effectively develop out products and services based on market conditions and forward market conditions. And again, the better data that we have and the more insight that we have from a consumer perspective will allow us to kind of develop those products and services, which is really delivering on the visitor experience. And then the last two buckets are really around the visitors. If we have good survey data on the current visitor that's coming to our destination or our tourism product, or the potential visitor, again, this allows us to make good informed decisions around marketing, around communications, around which travel trade channels we need to focus on, and should we be focusing on certain segments, and should we be going after repeat visitors or the VFR market. And again, this is all because of research. If we have access to the research, it allows us to kind of make these types of decisions. Now, Bonnie asked me just to show you just quickly where all of this data sits within RTO9. RTO9 stands out from a number of the RTOs in Ontario because it has a robust research program in place. A few years ago, I think it's 3 years ago now, we developed under Bonnie's leadership a very detailed market research plan, listening to the DMO partners, listening to a number of operators, and hearing the types of questions that they had, those business questions. And then we were able to come up with a market research plan and a data research plan that we've been enacting over the last couple of years. So if you go on tourismtalks.ca, Bonnie can put the URL in the chat. There are a tremendous amount of research resources that are there. We've got access to hotel statistics, to visitor arrival data, to economic impact data. And then on a monthly basis, based on an editorial calendar, we do a synopsis of this research. So we take a look at all the different myriad sources that exist out there, hotel spend data, visitor spend data, insights from TripAdvisor, Sojourn, and Madara, thought leadership data from like CNN Travel or Skift, and we're able to synthesize it, and we tried to bring a Southeastern Ontario lens to it, and we try to make it relevant for destinations as well as tourism operators. And this is provided on a monthly basis by RTO9. It's sent out by Twitter, and it's also put on the website. And again, this is manageable, bite-sized chunk data that we are able to provide out to the industry to help answer some of your questions. And at the same point too, if you have data or insights questions like, is the business travel market going to return to Southeastern Ontario? It's, Bonnie and Bonnie's team are just an email away. Drop them an email or, drop a note on Twitter, and they'd be happy to answer those questions. And, ultimately it comes back to myself and my team who work with RTO9, and we're happy to answer those kind of questions. Data and research is good, but it's only as good as it's been used. So I do encourage you to, go on tourismtalks.ca, look at what's available for all of the operators and the businesses, and then we'll be happy to answer any kind of questions. So Bonnie, I'll just pause it there, and then I'm going to turn it on to Fran, who's going to talk on a specific data platform. And hopefully this works, Fran. There.
All right. So do I share here? I never know what to do on this one.
Yeah, share your screen.
Okay. Okay, so that's, oh, I see, but sorry, I thought you had the presentation, so I don't even have the presentation open here, sorry. So I better do that, right? I'm used to the Zoom meetings, not these ones. Okay, let's just go. Presentations. Well, bear with me here. RTO9. There we go. Just pulling it up. Okay, can you see that screen now or no?
No, Fran, we see your calendar and we see a chat. So I think you might just want to
Okay, so how do that's what I was asking Bonnie this morning. I don't know how to share the screen here. I pull it over here. Do you see this one?
No.
No, okay. Somebody needs to train me.
Bonnie, do you mind just pulling up Fran's presentation?
Yeah, just give me a sec here.
Sorry, apologies. I that's why I sent it to you. I thought, oh, let somebody else do this and I'll just talk. You know how to do it? On GoToMeetings?
Just give me a second.
Okay.
And folks, if you have any questions on RTO9 research, or if you were on the consumer presentations last week, just feel free to ask any questions on the chat. There it is, Fran. I see it now.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so who's sharing this?
I think you're still good, Fran. I hadn't opened mine up yet.
Can you see me move it? Is this good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're good. Okay. All right. Apologies, everyone. So, so yes, Bonnie asked me to just speak on really the importance of research, particularly as it's focused on the accommodation sector. So I'll just give you a snapshot of what data we do provide on the accommodation sector. And this is when I say we, it's CBRE Hotels and CBRE Tourism and Leisure Group. And then how that data can be used. And then we call people who provide us data, of course, data partners. So what are the benefits of being a data partner with CBRE? So just to give you some background, CBRE hotels, I noticed on your one slide, Oliver, you had PKF on there. PKF is no longer. PKF was purchased by CBRE back in 2015, I think it was. So we're now part of the CBRE platform, and we provide really all kinds of services, but particularly on the hotel sector and the tourism and leisure sector. Specific to the hotels, we do appraisals and valuations, operational reviews, strategies, a lot of market feasibility studies, economic feasibility studies, negotiations with franchise or management companies, asset management for portfolios, all of that type of thing. So we, as part of that, we also, that's CBRE Hotels, and on the tourism and leisure group side, which is what I head up with Rebecca Godfrey. And there we do things that are beyond hotels, so including attractions, tourism strategies, convention center work, accommodation needs studies for DMOs or municipalities, etc. So we have a number of databases that I'll go through with you, and you know, just speak to the benefits of being part of that. The one that we do on a monthly basis is called the National Market Report. And here we have been collecting basically top line data. So when I say top line, it's occupancy, average daily rate, and revenue per available room for properties across Canada. We track over 2,000 properties on a monthly basis. That represents about 245,000 rooms. So just to give you some perspective, in Canada has about somewhere in the neighborhood of about 460,000 accommodation guest rooms. And so our sample is about you know, in the neighborhood of about 55 to 60% of the universe. We track this, as I said, on a monthly basis. This is just, we track month of data and then year-to-date data as well. And we track it for, I think it's about, I don't know, 70 or 80 markets across Canada, starting with Atlantic Canada and going across to the West Coast and even into Northwest Territories and the Yukon as well. So that's our monthly publication. And then we also do an annual publication. This is called our National Operations Report. And this is basically hotels. There's about 600 hotels in Canada that provide us with their full financial operating results on each of their properties. So it goes into a massive detail in terms of each of their departments, rooms, food and beverage, other operated departments, miscellaneous income, and so on. And then it goes into the cost around you know, each of those various departments, the labor costs, the actual cost of goods, etc. And then the undistributed operating expenses that get combined with the overall operation of the hotel itself. So things like management, IT systems, their sales and marketing, utility costs, property operations and maintenance, all of those various costs, the person hours that go into that, and then the non-operating expenses as well. So those are things like property taxes and insurance, etc. So those are tracked, as I said, across Canada, and then we produce a report once a year, and we segment the data either geographically, by province, and also by property type, as well as sometimes also by kind of the class. So, you know, properties with ADRs above this rate and properties with ADRs less than that rate, etc. So that gives us a very robust details on what's happening in the industry on a overall financial perspective. And as I said, we also do this by province, and then we break it into full service hotels versus limited service hotels. And we're always tracking their 2 years worth of data. So you're always looking at this year compared to the year prior and what changes might have been occurred over those two consecutive years. Okay, so how can the data, how can the data be used? This is as part of the research program for RTO 9. We do this for other RTOs as well, but for RTO 9, we do some what we call custom market reports. So oftentimes we get questions, well, couldn't you add like Barrie to your national reports? We have something, or some other community. In effect, we've added as many as we can on those sheets. We can't add any more markets, and just because of spacing and so on. So what we do is we'll do some custom market reports and encourage people within those regions or DMOs or whatever it might be to join the program and provide us with data. Whenever data is provided, it is never released ever, ever, ever on an individual basis. We maintain the confidentiality of independent individual properties and only report on the overall market. So the combined results of the sample within that market. And then we are always ensuring that before we can provide data on a market, we have to have a healthy enough sample within that market to be able to break it out, so that if one property didn't report on a month, we're not risking confidentiality on those that do report or anything of that nature. So for RTO 9, right now we're tracking over 50 properties. That represents about 4,400 rooms. And just to give you a perspective, there's about, somewhere we have a supply database too, but about 7,400 rooms in RTO 9. So we've got about 55% of the overall sample. And as I say, we report month of and then year to date findings, and we do this on an annual basis. So the markets that we break out are Kingston, Gananoque, Brockville. Then we combine Trenton, Belleville, Napanee, and combine Cornwall and Kemptville, and then roll everything up to RTO 9. So this is provided along with that national market report, which will be giving you data on basically, for the most part, I think it's Kingston that we break out, or Eastern Ontario. So that's one benefit, or how we can use the data. This is just giving you a summary of what that data has, what we've seen in terms of tracking RTO 9 since 2008. So since 2008, you can see here the dark green is the climb in the average daily rate. The blue is your occupancy, and the green is your revenue per available room. So naturally, you can see what happened here in this past year. In 20, we were down 21 points in terms of occupancy percentage points in 20, and down about 13% in average daily rate. Now, when you compare that to Ontario, Ontario overall was down 34 points. So the impacts on those major urban markets were much stronger.
Hey, Bonnie?
Fran, I think your screen has frozen if you can hear us.
Yeah, sir. Hey, Fran? I feel like I need to tell jokes right now.
We still can't hear you, Fran.
Oh. Oh no.
Coach go home.
Hey, Fran?
Yeah, it says we've lost connection. Oh,
Okay.
it's back.
You're back.
All right. Did you hear the part about the benefits of being a CBRE?
No, we missed all that, Fran. I think we've lost you again. Oh no, Bonnie.
Yeah, we've lost you again, Fran.
Hey folks, sorry about this. Bonnie, are you going to just message Fran?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the joys of technology. Apart from that, it's Monday morning. It's a new week.
Oliver, since we're in between, I'm just wondering, I had a question in regards to international trends in what you're seeing in some of the countries that are in recovery mode, how that's happening.
Oh dear, this is not good this morning.
Hey, Fran?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, great. Fran, I think you need to go back a few pages.
Okay, well, let's hope we, tell me where.
Probably there.
There. Okay, so this is the custom market report that we do for RTO 9. And here there are over 50 properties that participate. That's about 55% of your room's inventory. And it gives you detail on all of those, what we call sub-markets. So these are not in that monthly report that we put out nationally, but they are detailed specifically for RTO 9. And this is a graph of the last, since 2008, what RTO 9 has been doing in terms of occupancy rate and RevPAR. So you can see that drop off here in occupancy and also in rate and RevPAR in the last year. And that's where we see that, you know, you're down 21 points basically compared to the province, which is down 34 points in occupancy. Your rate is down 13% and the province is down 23%. So in terms of being the benefits of being a data partner, there's a couple benefits. One being you get to you get the monthly publications at no cost. Anybody who provides us data receives the reports themselves at no cost as a data partner. Other organizations like DMOs that want the data, they need to pay an annual subscription fee for that data. You can track your own performance in comparison to the market trends. When I say you, I mean accommodation property. It also gives you the ability to provide key performance data to your lender. So if you need to renew your mortgage, things are kind of scary right now with the COVID conditions and so on. You can go in and say, here's how I'm tracking against the market. I'm in line. It's not as bad as, you know, downtown Toronto or whatever it might be. So here's some data to show that. You can also look at, we do outlooks, major market outlooks and national outlooks twice a year, where we're forecasting what the 21 results will be, which is a little scary this year, but forecasting out, and that's often used by a lot of the hoteliers who are in turn trying to do their budgets. And then we offer some additional benefits in terms of your participation in market share reports and benchmark reports. Now there's a fee associated with those, but again, they're only provided to data partners. So just to give you an example here of what happened last year, the urban-rural differences. Overall, RevPAR in 2020 in the province was down 61%. RTO 9 was down 42%. And even if you break out Kingston and Belleville, call that your urban markets, it was down 44%, and your rural markets like the county and so on was down 38%. So you're not being affected as much as, of course, some of these major urban centers like Toronto, Niagara Falls, and Ottawa, which were down 70% in RevPAR. and Northern Ontario and Central Ontario were down 47%. So those are the kind of key indicators that, of course, would be very useful if you're talking to your lender, etc. This is just to give you some historic perspective. Again, we often looked at past events when we're forecasting, how we're going to come out of this crisis. And this just shows you here in terms of actual demand. This is at a national level. What happened after 9/11, what happened after SARS, and what happened after the great financial crisis. And so how long it has taken us to get back to pre conditions before each of these downsides took in place. So it's always taking us at least 3+ years to get back to the same conditions at from a RevPAR perspective. This one, we're forecasting a longer period to get out because we're not even through the crisis as of yet. This just gives you an example of the market share reports. So there were, if you're interested in that kind of thing, this tracks you in your performance against a competitive market. And again, we have to maintain confidentiality here and ensure that that's a competitive market selection is confidential. So we need a number of them. And then it tracks your penetration from a market perspective, a rate perspective, and a RevPAR penetration perspective. And this is the financial benchmark report, again, that takes your performance in terms of an operating detailed by department performance and tracks it against a competitive customized set that you can then go in and say, okay, how come I'm not doing so well in my rooms costs, what's happening here? I should be doing, something akin to other limited service properties or whatever the case might be. So those are some of the benefits around tracking, and basically we're the only, I guess, Canadian proprietary database that does this on the accommodation market. So we welcome all and everyone to join. Thanks. Okay, so now.
Thanks, Fran.
Take this. Okay.
All right. We can take any questions now. I know, Anne, you had a question for Oliver, I think, about international markets.
Yeah, it was because, I look across the globe and we're seeing Australia, New Zealand open up and China. And what are some of the early trends on their recovery and opening when it relates to tourism?
Yeah, okay, good question, Anne. So in the chat, just when I finish talking, I'll put the recovery signals framework that Destination Canada has worked on this last year, which looks at the 12 largest inbound overseas markets to Canada. And it actually provides, a bit of insight on when those markets will return, what they're going to look like, and when the possibility of these folks traveling to Canada. So I'll provide that up there. So New Zealand and Australia are a bit of an enigma internationally. They were very quick about closing their borders, and their case count has been extremely low. They've opened up to this this bubble, and then they had to close down the bubble earlier late last week. But they're likely to have that bubble at least in place until the end of the year, if not longer, into 2022. It's highly unlikely that Australia will accept inbound tourism before the end of this year. I think you can count on your hands the number of countries that are allowing inbound tourism, and they're mostly countries that are almost exclusively operating their economy with inbound tourism. The Maldives, the Seychelles, Mauritius, Thailand has tried unsuccessfully, and they're back into a lockdown. And Egypt has opened up, but again, they're back into some level of a quarantine zone. And again, Costa Rica was quick about opening up to American tourists, not allowing not requiring a quarantine period. And again, they went into lockdown a few weeks ago, with a few exceptions. So I think we're going to see this. It's going to be touch and go for the next little while. We do know that there's pent-up demand, like our consumer research is clearly showing this, that there's a high level of pent-up demand with consumers, but they're facing these ongoing restrictions, these quarantine zones, and travel insurance not being open. I think in terms of Canada's major international markets, I think the first two that we'll see recovering is obviously the US market, which will receive some level of herd immunity in early July, as well as the UK market. But it's all dependent on when our borders will open up. But I think those are going to be the two markets that we're going to see have some degree of stronger recovery into Canada once we're allowing that to happen.
Great, thanks. The herd immunity, I guess, will be the key to where countries will open up, and then the question being vaccination passports, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Canada's been non-committal on it. I mean, our Prime Minister was public in saying that he's not a fan of them. But if we see a critical mass of our international competitors and our international peers go out with them, then I think there'll be pressure on the Canadian government to have some sort of regime in place. But I mean, Britain is talking openly about them. So I'll be surprised if Canada doesn't follow suit. We'll have to see how it squares with our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and whether or not it passes muster from a legal perspective.
Thanks, Oliver. Fran, we have a couple questions in the chat. Can you tell us what Ontario's RevPAR number was again?
What the RevPAR number for 2020 was?
Yes, please.
Well, it takes 34.8 times. I'll figure it out. I don't have it up right now. I'll give it to you in a sec.
Okay.
34.8% occupancy.
It was just on your slide.
It's
RTO9 was 42.
That was how much it was down.
Yeah, that number.
Oh, it was 60.
Okay. Oh, how much Ontario was down? I think that was 60%, 60.8% down in RevPAR.
Thank you.
And the actual RevPAR number is, whoops. There. Oh, of course, it's not up 34. It was 34 points, so it'll be about $44 in RevPAR.
So our other question, Fran, was tracking for rural areas. How do you arrive at your figures? And do you track Airbnb or VRBOs? And what are your plans to do so in the future?
No, we don't track Airbnb and VRBOs. We only track the hotels, motels, etc., traditional properties. It's pretty hard to track Airbnbs and VRBO just because the supply fluctuates so much throughout the year and so on. But there's other companies that do provide that service. And when I said rural versus urban, I was really referring to the RTO9 sample. And there I just chose Kingston and Belleville as being your more urban properties, and the balance of them being more rural, like Gananoque, etc.
Great, thank you. And I know there's some other questions that Oliver's provided some links to. So I don't know, Oliver, if you wanted to speak to them or if you just are providing the links.
Yeah, so there's two. So the first one is the International Recoveries Framework that Destination Canada is tracking on a regular basis. And this is when we think Canada's main 12 international overseas markets will be able in a place to return. I just realized that there's also another, it's actually a dashboard we do, I totally forgot about it. It's on TIAC's website, the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, but it's a heat map and it tells you when markets are returning, what they're gonna look like, and it's got a little bit of editorial commentary. So I'll just provide that in the chat. Sorry, there's a question here from Lisa McLean about the Quebec market. Bonnie, the research that we've done for you that we presented last week on the Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec market, we've got some decent metrics in there about the Quebec market, their travel intentions for Southeastern Ontario, and what potential trips will look like over the next 6 to 12 months. So Bonnie, is that research now on Tourism Talks, or is it still?
It is actually,
It is.
yes.
Okay.
All the slides are on Tourism Talk right now.
Perfect. Okay, so Lisa, I'll put I'll find the link and I'll just put it in the chat for you. But it addresses kind of what the Quebec market is looking for in terms of a Southeastern Ontario vacation over the next 6 to 12 months.
Thanks, Oliver. Are there any other questions for Fran while Oliver's doing that? Okay, any further questions for Oliver? Okay, so we'll wrap up then. The two presentations will be posted on Tourism Talk. I don't know, Oliver and Fran, if you want to make any closing comments.
No, just if you're interested in, well, yes, I should say, if you're interested in being a data partner and you're an accommodation property, just reach out to Bonnie or myself, and we can get you set up with registration. We'd be happy if the more the merrier. So thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say, so we've done a pretty robust piece of market research that's specific for Southeastern Ontario in terms of the forward consumer demand, perceptions of Southeastern Ontario, travel intentions, travel behaviors. It's awesome data. For the life of me, Lisa, I can't find it right now on the website, but maybe Bonnie could forward it on somehow or another if she's got everyone's email addresses that are participating on the website, or you can just check the Twitter account for RTO9. But it's current, really good research. It's specific for Southeastern Ontario, and it's designed to kind of answer a number of questions in terms of when we think that domestic market in Ontario and Quebec is going to return back to Southeastern Ontario.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you again, Fran and Oliver, for the insightful information today, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks everyone.